Hey guys, Steve here. Today we got a look at the Prinz Eugen for you. Von Mueller on the screen here. You see I got Von Essen in that second slot. Something I'm testing out. He's only level 6 right now, so that's kind of a placeholder just so I don't forget about my intention to try that build at some point in time. Not doing a lot yet, but here we got a game on Crash Zone Domination Mode. This one's a bit of a ripper, so I think you'll probably enjoy it here. You guys have been asking me to review this ship quite consistently. I was going to wait until the next update to see if there's a new Green XP ship, but then I started thinking to myself, you got a tier 7 cruiser just sitting there waiting for you to pick up. Like, what are you waiting for? So, went ahead and got it. Early impressions video here, probably played, I don't know, about 8 games, give or take. So, still getting used to the ship, but right off the bat, I'd say it's pretty strong so far. Plays a lot like the Hipper. I'm going to go over the stats briefly as we move into position here to contest A. As far as the stats that you're going to look up in the game, pretty much the same, almost across the board. We got a little bit more HP here. I got 45,000 on my build on the Prince and 43,800 on the Hipper. And by the way, if you guys complain about my pronunciation on this one, I am prepared to call it the Eugene, so watch yourselves. The other main difference, torp, range. We get 2 extra kilometers on the Eugen, but 4 knots slower in the water. That's going to add a little bit to the reaction time. You actually have half-second longer reaction time on the Eugen. Gives them just a little bit more time to dodge. Not a massive difference, but it is worth noting. Other than that, gun stats the same. My build, the mobility and detection stats are a little bit different, but I do have the ship set up differently. This one I have steering gears slot 2, concealment mod slot 3. The Hipper currently I run prop mod and steering gears. Now the steering gears in slot 3 is more effective. I think it's a 40% boost or reduction to the steering time as opposed to 20% in slot 2. So that one turns better on my builds. And detection is significantly better, about a kilometer and 1.2 kilometers better on this one using that concealment mod, which of course increases the incoming fire dispersion of enemy shells as well. Keep that in mind. Now the key difference is the ability to switch the consumable sonar for the reload booster. And we're going to see the reload booster here as we ambush this Akatsuki. If you're a destroyer player and you don't have a healthy fear of German cruisers by now, you need to develop it very quickly. German cruisers are one of the biggest threats to destroyers out there. You got kind of your radar cruisers, which can be a menace, but they have very limited duration, and if the team's not going to respond very well, sometimes it's not as effective as it should be on paper. These ones, though, they can 1v1 you. If they have the sonar, it's a 5.5 range on that sonar for surface detection. Same sonar as the Hipper, but if you have the reload booster here, you can see you can get those shells out quick enough to kill the destroyer. So regardless of the configuration they're running the Prinz Eugen, and you gotta have a healthy appreciation of it as a destroyer player. Stay the heck away from it. You cannot get anywhere near this thing. That's just a good rule of thumb. You're gonna notice my Yudachi not really getting on B. I think we pinged him a couple times trying to get him over there. That's gonna be, by the time we bring it up again, 200 to 300 point difference. So a little bit disappointing there. Yudachis usually go for torpedo damage, and this guy actually has a pretty good game, so I'm not going to trash talk him too much. But it's an easy cap. It's uncontested. Go ahead and get it. Take yourself out of your torping routine for 1 minute, and you're going to get hundreds of points for your team potentially. This game's going to be a lot harder than it should be because of that. So always going to point that out whenever we see it. Again, I'm not going to trash talk his particular game. He did have an effective game, this one. Anyway, here we're going to see the guns in action. German cruisers, the rule of the thumb is if you can get the AP in the sides of those ships, fire the AP. The AP damage is extremely high. Looking at my list, it's still by far the highest at the tier, 6,195 per Citadel on my builds. The balancing factor, the penetration angle is not nearly as generous, so they got to be more broadside in general to get those in. So you're going to want to switch to HE on any angled targets. The HE on these German cruisers, this one included, is kind of trash, but it's better than shooting AP that's just going to bounce and shatter. So You got to do what you got to do with this. You got to have the right shell. If you're not utilizing AP when you have the opportunity to use it on the ship, you're going to be missing out on a lot of damage. So be sure to be firing those the AP shells into broadside cruisers, battleships. Just change your aim point depending on your results. So you can see on the map here, our team has kind of dominated the southwest. They're dominating the northeast. They haven't quite wrapped up their flank yet. B is still sitting there in the middle kind of for free. Unfortunately, we didn't get it earlier, but we're going to move in there now. Yudachi looks like he's committed to capturing, and we're also going there to help support him. So this is going to be one of those games. Keep an eye on the score. You're going to have points at the game where you're going to say, oh, you're up 2-3 ships. You're up 200-300 points. Go balls to the wall, get your damage. You're going to see how easy it is for these games in terms of ship count, in terms of points, to come roaring back the other direction. So controlling the caps in domination mode, always priority number one. We spawned on A, so that's our job to capture that one first. We did that. Now we're going to go into B. Once we secure B, we have 2/3 of the caps. All we have to do is defend B, and we'll win the game, hopefully. That's the goal for pretty much every domination mode game. If you're not focused on controlling the objectives, if you're just focused on killing the ships, you're going to lose a lot of domination mode games. Here we get spotted. Nothing on the map that we can see that could spot us, so we know it's the destroyer here. Luckily, we have our Yudachi coming in to help spot us. We don't have the sonar option, of course. We do have the plane, but the plane in general is better at spotting torps than it is actual destroyers. But we're going to move in there. You see we got the reload boost ready to go. We do have our HE loaded. Both times we knew that the destroyers were in play. You know, when we moved into A, we saw someone was capturing it, so we knew that destroyer was there. Here we know we're getting spotted by an unseen target, so we know there's another destroyer here. Both times we got the HE ready to go. Moving in here, we only got the front 2 guns as the back 2 are spinning around, but that's fine. Doesn't really matter. We got to get rid of this guy before he can torp us. Especially me and the Yudachi lineup like this, there's a potential for a double strike torp here, so no sense in waiting for those back guns or anything like that. Once they come around, we swing our ship to the right to get those guns in play as quick as possible. And he goes down here in a sec, and then our goal is to get to that island in kind of the center of the screen, just a little bit to the right. We want to get behind that, use that for cover. Right now we got a Jean Bart, we got other battleships pushing in, and we also have an enemy cruiser that's unspotted. And here's what we're talking about, 4v4 now. We're only up 60 points. 2-3 minutes ago we were up 2 or 3 ships, up 200 points. That goes away very quickly. So job number 1, get B. We can't do that if we're getting reset, so we have to get behind this island, get unspotted, get protected. Luckily for us here, the battleships trailing us are not in position to get on this cap. Either they're slowing down intentionally, which would be a really good play if that's the case, or they're just not quite, within reach of the cap. Either way, as a battleship player, if you have a player on your team capturing a base like this, and you try and get on there to help them, if you're permanently spotted and they keep resetting you, you're going to make it longer for your team to capture that base. So usually as a battleship, again, if you have someone already capturing the base, you want to let them do that as long as they're not being detected. The only time there's a real exception to that rule is if you've cleared out the side and you're trying to turn and burn and get on to the next objective. Then you can get as many ships on that cap to capture it as quickly as possible, then move on. Let's say there's a bigger fight somewhere else you got to get to. You want to capture that as quickly as possible. So that worked out. Not really that applicable in this situation, but I did want to mention it because it's a common mistake you see battleship players making. Here the Wichita, we got him in an ambush situation. We weren't sure where this guy was, but he does pop up here. Now he spots us, but he's staring down the barrel. We give him just a little bit of a love tap here. I get the torps down just in case he turns in a little bit. But by tapping him there, we're hoping he's going to turn out here and show us that broadside. You're going to see the power of these German guns here close range. What was that? Oh, about 25,000, give or take. Pretty solid salvo on that guy. So this the German AP, no joke. But we're going to see a lot of overpens as the rest of the sequence develops. And this is something I've noticed 2 times now in kind of these close quarter cruiser v cruiser duels. The first one was against like a Dallas or a Helena. It must have been the Helena because, it was a really lightly armored ship, so I didn't really think that much of it. Wichita, not the most heavily armored cruiser known to man, but I'm just, again, noting all the overpens here. Maybe it's a quirk of the ship, maybe not, but you know, I'm still kind of in the testing phase on these guns. Just pointing it out as something to think about. Wichita disengages. Ganai's now pushing in. Now these torps reload pretty quickly here. What's the reload on them? 68 seconds, so just over a minute. And you get 2 launchers per side. Again, you got 8-kilometer range on these puppies. Not the fastest, only 60 knots, but what this allows you to, and the firing angles, the launch angles are very generous on them as well. So these torps, you know, torps on cruisers in general are defensive in nature. A lot of them are zoning type of torps, like if you're playing a Megami or a Japanese cruiser, you just want to keep launching the torps where you think ships might be to kind of make it more perilous for them to push into you. But here, you know, these close ranges, these firing angles, we can launch the first set and we remain angled at the guy. Here's the kicker of this. Well, first we switch back to the Wichita. We don't want to get focused on the Ganais now. But think about it conceptually. You can launch one set, and instead of having to turn all the way around, you can just kind of just barely flip which side of the ship you're pointing at them, get those other torps launched. So you can really remain steeply angled throughout the launch cycle. There, one of our torps was damaged. It's actually going to work out for us here because the first salvo does not finish him off. But, you know, very, very dangerous kind of offensive torps that, you know, if you get into these close range situations, not that profitable for enemies to be pushing into you. And you need to be aware of this on the Hipper. The German cruisers in general have really good launch angles, but the Eugen, no different there. There we finish them off. We would have gotten them anyways, of course, but we finish them off with the torp. Now we're down to 2v2. Check the map. Our Colorado perfectly broadside to both battleships on the enemy team. So in my mind, I'm thinking this guy's probably going to die. If you recognize your team's kind of putting themselves in a suicidal position like he is, you just have to mentally assume they're going to die. Look at the score though, because we got on B, and because, you know, we've been keeping the score tight in terms of ships, we're actually up enough that we can lose the Colorado without losing the game. It's a 100-point swing, so I don't need to be too aggressive here. But the Ismail was pushing in. I launched the plane. Now we got a shot at the Jean Bart. We're going to focus him first. He's the more dangerous ship, the Tier 7. Of course, the Ismail's a failed platooner, Tier 5, so we're really not that worried about him. Not going to disrespect him. He, of course, can kill us. But the Jean Bart, much more dangerous threat. So we focus him first, launch one. We get one torp on him. He kind of slowed down just a little bit or didn't speed up quite as much. But again, we're able to just flip right around here. We're going to remain angled, so if he pokes around there with guns pointing at us, not going to take a sustained huge salvo, and we're going to get those torps, the follow-up torps on there to kill him. And the quick reloading torps, by the time the Ismail comes around, well, we'll find out. One final difference between this and the Hipper, and by the way, if you're watching this video, you don't have this, but you have the Hipper. It's essentially the same ship. But one final difference is the turtleback armor on this one is a little bit better at least. So, you know, you're even more effective close range. Both of these ships are very hard to citadel close range. They're pretty durable. These are kind of the close range cruisers, brawling cruisers of the game, if you want to call it that. There's the Kraken on that guy. We're going to go ahead and see if we can finish this guy off. But we're sailing away from him. That way, if these torps don't hit him and we're kind of chased out of there, at least we're not going to be getting dev struck and losing the game that way. So sailing away, we're still in range with the torps, get the salvo off, and, you know, this is looking pretty good. So my thoughts on the Prinz Eugen, I think it's a pretty solid ship. A lot of you guys were telling me you enjoyed this ship. Not that I certainly didn't disbelieve you. I was just like, well, German cruisers aren't my all-time favorite. This one is pretty dang solid, though. I'm going to enjoy playing this ship quite a bit. So if you like cruisers, especially German cruisers, and you got the free XP, definitely a solid option, one of these. You know, none of the green XP ships at Tier 7 are really that bad, to be honest with you. As for reload booster or hydro, the hydro is awesome, but I think the reload boost, we saw it against destroyers, it's punishing against cruisers when they get stuck broadside, so I like running it that way. Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. There's always more World of Warships content coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. I do love to hear from you guys. And we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.